explain yourself. I don't know if you know this, guys. David, you may not know this. I'm a diehard Laker fan. And this just in. I love the Lakers. And the Lakers won Summer League. And I feel like that's indicative of what's going to happen this season. However, Charles Barkley talked to TMZ, his take.
Now, who's better, the Sixers or the Lakers now? Who's better?
Sixers, much better.
Are the Lakers a playoff team?
No.
No?
Hell no.
Not even with Lonzo?
No.
I mean, Carrie, don't put this pressure on this kid already.
No, but listen, hold on. Hell no? Is that necessary, Chuck?
I mean, the West is hard.
Not even with Lonzo?
No, not this year. Maybe next year when he potentially has LeBron and Paul George. Then all of a sudden we're talking about top 3 seed, maybe top 2 seed.
I feel like it's rude of you, and I'm going to talk to David Lloyd about this in another break, but I feel like that's rude of you. Maybe I'm seeing it through my purple and gold glasses,
yes,
saying.
Perhaps I would say.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Though, listen, I think Lonzo is going to be the reason, though, that someone like LeBron and Paul George comes to the Lakers next offseason.
Okay, so let's stay there. Jorge Sedano, forgive me, I didn't give you the right co-host of the mornings with Keyshawn, George, and LZ on 710 ESPN LA. And the reason why I brought you in is because you guys talk about a variety of things, wholly Los Angeles, but we heard Barkley's take in all seriousness. The Lakers are better or back? How would you describe what's happening now and the potential idea of perhaps other big-time free agents coming there? Are they better or are they back? I
think they're better. They're back once they're able to land those type of free agents, and we're talking about them in the competitive vein of being a championship type team. I think that's where they're back. And even then, some Laker loyalists may not say we're back until we're winning championships, because that's what the Lakers do. But Lonzo, as I mentioned earlier, Carrie, I think he's got this skill set that other players are going to gravitate to because he makes everyone else around him better. For as much as we criticize LeVar, the one thing he has gotten right is look at where Lonzo plays and look at the guys around him and how much better they get. And guys will want to play with him, whether that's Paul George, LeBron, Russell Westbrook, whoever is a free agent potentially next season. They will all consider the Lakers because of that.
All right, so you were able to speak with the people, and everyone knows Lonzo, courtesy of LeVar. You're able to speak with the people, and by the people I mean they call into your radio show. Give me the temperature. You've taken the temperature. How do people feel about the Lakers in terms of where they are right now?
I think the Laker fan just wants to see them take another step forward. They went from 17 wins to 26 wins. They'd like to see another 8, 9, 10 game improvement. If they can get 35 wins, Carrie, in the Western Conference,
that's huge.
Yeah, I think that's a big step, especially when you're talking about the growth and maturation of what we all think, or at least I tend to think, is going to be a superstar in this league in Lonzo Ball. He's going to hit a wall at some point, so you have to obviously safeguard for that. But I think that any rational person will say if the Lakers go from 26 wins to 35 or 36, that's a really good season.
Okay, so wow, 35 wins. We're managing expectations
this season.
But by the way, even though we're only talking about 35 wins in the West, and we're considering that good, they had 26 wins last year. Yeah, there's another team right down the road here, literally down the road, in the Dodgers, that is arguably doing the best. I mean, seriously, this is the best season they've seen in some time. Talk to me about why there's still so much fanfare there. Are we forgetting about the Dodgers?
No, I just think ultimately it's still a Lakers town. And because, first of all, the amount of championships, right? There's been more recent championships. You go back since 1988 for the Dodgers, and the Lakers have won several, obviously, in that time frame. The other part, I think, and the national audience may not get this, Carrie, but if you live in Los Angeles, it's hard to watch the Dodgers because they've got carriage issues with the television providers and whatnot for their channel. Right. So basically, the Dodgers are on a specific cable channel, and they're not on every cable or satellite operator. So unless you have one specific type of cable, you're not watching the Dodgers. So that eliminates 75% of the entire town. So it's hard in that regard. But it's funny because today we did one of our many polls that we do on the show this morning, and which we'll get to another one later, I'm sure. And one of them was, if we put our answers in a time capsule right now, in 5 years, who will be the more accomplished player? Cody Bellinger or Lonzo Ball?
Talk about it. Who will be.
And it's 50-50 right now on the poll. I went with Lonzo for the reasons that I mentioned, plus the fact that one player in baseball in the lineup doesn't have that type of impact. Guys won't gravitate to one player in the lineup than they would in the NBA.
That's very fair, and that's a really good poll. You also had another poll. Can we flash this for a second?
Yes.
We've had L.C. Granderson on the show a few times, and for whatever reasons, I don't know what you guys do at work. It's an explain yourself, if you will.
Yes.
We
have fun. That's what we do.
Okay, so this was a tweet you sent out this morning. Does he sound like Kermit the Frog? And you took a poll. I'm going to go ahead, and I love me some LZ.
Yes.
But perhaps maybe. What are the fans saying?
Well,
what are the people
fans say he absolutely sounds like Kermit the Frog. Now, there's variations of this. There were fans that thought he sounded like Fozzie Bear. This all started because he brought it up. We were talking about broadcasters, and do people care with all the changes in the NFL and college football as broadcasters move into different roles? I said, does the audience actually care about that? So that's where this started, and then he said, well, you know, like if I did the games, I sound like Kermit the Frog. I'm like, whoa, what you think you sound like Kermit the Frog? And then that's how this started.
Okay, I love it because it's situational awareness, and I'm going to go ahead and agree with him. He does have a very distinct Kermit the Froggy voice.
He sounds like Kermit the Frog's on PEDs, is what I told him. I think that would be the case. Not that I'm suggesting he's on PEDs, but if he was, then that's what Kermit the Frog would sound like.
Kermit the Frog would never do that. He's wholesome.
No, of course
George Sedano, thank you for joining us here on SportsCenter.
Always a pleasure.
Coast to Coast.
Watson, touchdown! They'll talk about that play forever.
After that play, I just sat there like, dang. The one thing I just remember is just how bad Coach Saban felt for us. I was like, man, that's when I really felt bad because I wanted to win it for him more than anybody. But the biggest thing I take away from that game is he just came in and said, guys, one game doesn't define you. Whether we have won that game or lost it, since we did, one game doesn't define a career. It's how you handle what just happened that'll define you. I was like, man, even when we just lost the national championship, this guy is just so level-headed and calm, man. He's the real deal.
Jonathan Allen talking about his coach, Nick Saban. You know, interestingly, Nick, that wasn't even a question about you. That was a question about what does it feel like to lose in that fashion. What do you make of Jonathan's response? Because the first thing he flashed on was your reaction to it.
Well, and I think that's important for your players. I think for our players to let them know that that one game doesn't define who they are, as well as, you know, don't let this be a lost opportunity to learn, you know, from the failure. Were the two messages that I tried to give the players after the game, and hopefully those things are things that can help them be more successful in life.
He described you as level-headed and calm. Is that how you were experiencing it?
Well, I try to be. You know, I mean, it hurts. You know, it doesn't hurt so much for you as much as your players and the people in your organization who have worked so hard, the togetherness you have on the team, the goals that everybody's put so much into. I think that's the hard thing, is the feeling that you see them all have, the hurt that they have. That's what really is tough.
At SEC Media Days, you said something like, hopefully we won't waste a failure. What does that mean?
Well, I think there's lessons to be learned. You never want to waste the opportunity for anything, not a practice, not a play, so when you have an experience like this where there's a lot of opportunities for you to learn from the mistakes that you made, the failure that you had, that's something you want to grow, and that's something you want to build on. You don't want it to be a negative. You want it to be a positive, not something that frustrates you, but something that challenges you to try to improve, which everybody's got to have a little self-criticism to be able to improve, and everybody's got to be able to take criticism to be able to improve. So those two things, I hope, are something that will help us improve.
Still, a huge swing between being the national champ and finishing runner-up in such a heartbreaking fashion. How did that change the offseason for you?
Well, I don't really think it changed much for us, me as a coach. I think you're always looking for systematically, personnel-wise, people in the organization, how can you improve it? What are other people doing? How do you need to change it? Where do you need to be flexible in terms of what your system really is? I think there's an interesting analogy. You know, 85% of people that open restaurants fail.
Yeah.
95% of the people that get McDonald's succeed. So there's something about the system that must mean something. All right, so I think our system is something that we're always trying to improve. Now, from a psychological standpoint, when you lose a game like that, you know, Lee Trevino's old statement about, you know, dogs don't hunt unless they're hungry. well, maybe we're a little hungrier this year. Maybe that's a little motivation. Maybe that improves the intensity and the focus to help us practice the way we need, get the reps that we need to play at a higher level.
All part of the process, which I read so much about at Alabama. And I know being efficient with your time is another part of it. Is it true you eat the same breakfast and lunch every single day? Every day.
Every day that I work, I have a cup of coffee, 2 Little Debbie cookies, which...
Solid?
Not good. But I always have a salad for lunch trying to make up for it. But
what's the rationale behind that, Nick?
Well, I'm trying to eat a low-fat lunch to make up for the high-fat cookies. That's the only rationale I can figure.
It's not like I don't want to have to worry about food because I'm concentrating on winning a national championship. We could sort of take that out of the equation?
Well, you know, I'm reading a book called Fat Chance, all right, which is all about diet, exercise, health, not just physical health, mental health, a lot of different things. Interesting book I would recommend to anybody, and anybody that reads this book would probably not eat those cookies that I eat in the morning.
What have you learned from Fat Chance? How's it changed you?
Well, I think it's going to change how I look at my diet and how I try to eat so that I have a chance to be healthier. You have been coaching since the 70s. What's the one part of your job that you can pretty much at this point do without? You've done it enough. You're not really crazy about it. I like being a coach, but this is something I could do without. You know, I think everything, we've always tried to focus on the things that are most important to being successful. I think a lot of people get caught up in the external factors and a lot of things that don't really have anything to do with winning and losing. I think the 2 most important things that affect winning and losing are, A, getting good talent. How do you bring talent to your team? And in our case, it's recruiting. And then secondly, how do you develop those players so that they can be the best players that they can be? So that's always what we've tried to focus on. That's what I enjoy the most. I think some of the other things that you have to do, speak, alumni, media, that goes with the territory. And there is a responsibility to promote the game for the players, which you all do a great job of doing. So there's really none of it that I don't like, as long as I have just a little bit of time for myself. Okay, you said one was recruiting. We showed Jonathan Allen off the top talking about you. He also told the recruiting. Do you remember going to Jonathan Allen's house the first time? I sure do. What he said was his mom cooked up this feast, and you walk in and you say, no, I'm good, I've already eaten, or something like that. What is the etiquette when you're paying a visit to a recruit's home and somebody has cooked up a meal for you? I should eat. But what happens to me is we have more than one visit in an evening. All right, so sometimes I have more than one dinner, but I should eat small portions at both dinners. Just pick. And I apologize to Jonathan's mother. You still landed him. Last question, we got to go. When you're walking through the streets of Tuscaloosa, how often do you greet someone and say, "Roll Tide"? Are you a Roll Tide guy? A lot of people greet me with "Roll Tide." I acknowledge that as much as possible. It's not possible to always acknowledge it, and that's not a disrespect, because we have a very recognizable brand. Yes. And Roll Tide is part of it. Yes. But you won't say "Roll Tide" when you walk by. You won't start and say, "Hey, Roll Tide." I don't ever say that to anyone first. Oh, got it. Okay. It's my response to them. Nick, best of luck to you this year. Great talking to you, Nick Saban. Thank you. Alabama head coach joining us today on Coast to Coast.
Planning for Success is brought to you by